your seventh feature film, Deauville, Toronto International Film Festival. Inexorable is going to be at all the major genre film festivals. So after being set free in adoration, the spirit of Gloria gets a homecoming party deluxe with this film. Themes of infatuation, obsession, strange love are all intertwined here. So I want to call this a home invasion film, not Funny Games invasion film, but you take aim to a certain degree in a very subtle way at aristocracy, wealth, and it's sort of mixed up with imposter syndrome. Again, it's very subtle. I was wondering, what's the idea behind the setup of taking putting this imposter in this entire publishing world giant maven, and sort of like the mixture of those two ideas?
Well, that's a heavy question, Eric. I don't know. I try to build a thriller, my flavor. You know, I try to build really a kind of very tense, written, maybe a little bit classical, but I try to build a tension. I think I react completely based on adoration, you know, to try to reinvent myself, to do something completely different with a very well written base, you know, to a point, to a twist, but once again with my voice. And I think I did the same thing over and over and over again. I think I was more influenced by Liver to Heaven by John M. Stoll, you know, with Gene Tierney. That movie was very close to me since my teenager, and and so I tried to create that figure of Gene Tierney, like, you know, Alba Gloria, who penetrate that world, who is in love with a father figure. You don't know if it's the father or not. There is a lot of question. You play with all those elements that we think we know.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a little bit more like cliche, you know. But in fact, I try to find my voice through that and reinvent something. I try. I didn't say I succeed, but I try to and create also a ghost story and to mix some ghosts, just like Hideo Gosha, you know,
Yeah.
elements and Hammer elements, you know. And also I tried to make a movie that I wanted to, I would love to watch in a theater as a viewer, as a cinephile. And I do my best to create a real tension that to put the audience, you know, to start just like a Chabrol-like story full of different elements that you can relate to. You can say, oh, that guy is not rich as she is rich. It's probably, well, that's strange. Oh yeah, they have and then you have a link with the characters, and then slowly you unscrew I don't know how you say that in English, but you can twist all the elements, all the characters, and to tell what? To tell just a mad fucking love story.
And so there's one one trait that you have is you like to take your actor and put him through the ringer. Like, you like to test the limits. And I think this is what happens with Poelvoorde. Is I was thinking back to Laurent Lucas, and like, when he gets to the point where you're using him again in Alleluia, you're putting him through like some massive scenes of disruption. I think Poelvoorde here really, like, you put him in a spot where you maximize all the gifts that he has, and you see him crumble, and you see him physically become like a vulture-like presence. The common trait between the protagonist and the antagonist in this film is that they're both shapeshifters. They both come from some zone of discomfort, and they both mutate into something different. you know, with Alba, there's these great shots where she, within, like it's a pin drop, and her facial expression changes, and I see the brilliance behind the casting. But for Poelvoorde, I think you saw what you had the very, you had access to him in adoration, obviously, but here it's kind of like you unleashed on him, and he just brought out this ferociousness in him. And I think this is a really interesting dimension to this protagonist and antagonist, that they're both shapeshifters. I was wondering if you could say, how do you push him to that limit?
I'm so happy you said that, Eric. I'm so happy because, well, you know my films. I always try to push to reach the limit of the actors, and I sometimes I would be able to do much further, But I live in 2021, so I'm not. I'm not living just like in Zulawski time, I would love to push it much more, but I have to say, I find with Benoit, kind of an alter ego. I find with him something that I admire. I've I have a lot of admiration for Benoit. I think he puts me in a corner, just like I was when I was a teenager. I know him for a long time, but I always felt to be a teenager watching a Big Brother, a big genial Big Brother. And of course he has a very strong energy, and I have a very strong energy, and our energy sometimes is very problematic. But I think there is something on stage and production. There is something we cancel our energy, and we succeed to work very well. Sometimes it's very noisy, it's full of tension, because Benoit is sometimes very complicated, especially with you never know how it gets to the stage, you never know in what states, so it's always sometimes complicated. But I have to say, I project myself. There is something in him that I can invade, just like, of course, I did that with Laurent, but in a other dimension. Laurent is much more cold temper. He's much more methodic. Benoit is a volcano, So I need to face myself. In fact, when I work with Benoit, I face myself. I struggling with my. I don't know if it makes sense, but I have the feeling that I struggling with myself with Benoit, and I think it's the most exciting thing I had to face on a set.
On a set. I get the impression that a performance with him is sort of like it's like a bottle, and you open up that bottle, and it's like, hey, I have maybe 2 or 3 takes in me. I'm not going to give you anything more, because he just puts everything there. And that's what's scary about this character, is once he blossoms, because he starts owning to who he is as a person. That's when it's matched with the warpath of the antagonist. It's a really impressive creative energy that sort of like just brings itself to the surface. There's one casting choice in this film you probably doesn't get mentioned probably in your interviews, but I was thinking a lot of Samuel Fuller, and and by chance is like, your lead actor was in a film called Man Bites Dog, and here it's like, no, the dog doesn't really bite, but let's talk about that casting choice. The dog in this film, like from the onset, I'm thinking, okay, we're going down this road. So yeah, just talk about that element, that player on in this film.
But I think you're right about Fuller. It's always the same thing. I play with different elements and my cinephilia. It's play with Fuller, Argento. You have you have so many Gauchet. You have so many people that I invite to the table. It's just, and it's sometimes it's not very conscious, but in fact, to be completely honest with you, when the guy who was taking care about the dogs, he presented me that white dog, say, well, of course, of course, the white dog, I want that dog, you know, it was quite complicated. But of course, Fleur is yeah. I more and more than ever, I felt more and more relatable to Fuller. Not,
Mhm.
I don't compare myself to Fuller, of course, but I felt close to him. That the idea that he has based on cinema, the liberty, the to be a maverick like him. To I know my position as a filmmaker is fragile, and it's became very complicated those days. You know, there is a cinema festival war. There is a it's war everywhere. You know, it's war between cinema, streaming. It's really scary time. But you know, so that's why I try to stick on my obsession and on my job, and in a very I try to stay free and independent.
Yeah, it's a very even though this is your seventh film, I mean, it's always, you know, it's always a question of like, can I structurally put another film together? And how does that work? How does that get seen? How does that get shown? But that happens when you are able to check off a couple of boxes. And in this film, you know, I don't want to put her in the scream queen category because she doesn't actually scream, but it's a fantastic casting choice in Alba. And like I said before, her facial expressions are just like you know, I could see Giphies out of this actress. It's just like she has that face. So was this an actress that you were aware of? She doesn't have a huge filmography, but is it somebody that was in the periphery that you had seen somewhere and said, oh, I'd like to work with that person? Or is it just like a casting
I was looking.
happiness?
I was looking for someone. I was looking for someone, and I met different actresses. And one day, I remember I was home, and I was, you know, with my remote, and finally, I was able to see Trois fois Manon.
Yeah,
It's
TV
a
series.
miniseries, yes, on Arte, and I was, who's that? Who's that young woman? She was very young when she shot that, and I was very impressed by the fragility and the rage, the inner rage she had.
Mhm.
And immediately I said to my producer, I want to meet Alba, and they weren't very keen about that choice. And finally, I met her, and I made some essay with her, and it was obvious. It was completely obvious. And I think she's stunning. She's beautiful. She's fragile. She's strong. She's intelligent. She understands so quickly. And she has an inner life. You know, she has something vivid. She has something. Well, she's very impressive.
There is a physicality about her performance and like a carnal element to the character as well. I don't want to spoil too much here, but she does look good with blood in her mouth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just like
She's very sexy with that. Yeah, yeah, I know. You're absolutely no, you're right. Because I tried to play also. You were talking about the dogs, but for me, the dog and Alba, they are just like you know, brother and sister. You know, I tried to play the bestiality of her,
uh-huh.
and I play that bestiality slowly, you know, that at one point she became just like a dog. She's able to, she's a dog, you know, she's desperately looking for a master. So I was quite excited about that idea, and I know that's a very edgy idea, especially these days. You know, everything is right or bad. You know, I love that idea because you don't know exactly what's going on, but she's ready to do everything and to find someone. And I don't know why she has an obsession for that guy. Maybe she's the daughter. Maybe she's not. I don't have answer because now, you know, these days, you know, people watch the film and sometimes say, oh, I can tell, I knew immediately she's the daughter. Yeah, well, good for you. I don't care about that. That's not my point.
Mhm.
That's not my point. That's not the twist. You know, the twist is not that. There is no twist. It seems to have some twist, but in fact, you can see that movie in a very, I hope, I try, maybe it's not obviously, but I try to go much more deeper in that. And that's why, I was very obsessed with Liver to Heaven, because the Jean Tierney character in Liver to Heaven is really insane too. She's able to be very cold and methodical, and in fact she's always bring back her pulsion. The pulsion is stronger than the intelligence, and that struggle, it's so always interests me, especially in that film, and especially in that character.
One of the constraints, or not a constraint actually, but one of the pleasurable things is that you're still working in celluloid. This was shot on 35, right?
16.
On 16. So there is a definite look to it. Is there more of an immediacy in that, in such sequences when they're filmed?
Well, it was quite easy, I have to say, but the problem sometimes, you can tell it's a very technical film,
Yeah.
the lenses and the movie, the camera work, and Benoit is not technical at all. Benoit is moving all the time. So sometimes it was complicated because he didn't have the patience to be on his mark, and to wait, and to be technical. It's always in and out, and so that's what complicated. But sometimes I had to take the time to explain to him, say, well, Benoit, I do that, and the moment you understand, sometimes it demands a little bit to be patient, but when you understand, it's okay. And of course, also the fact that we prepare a lot before. We prepare the location, the la matière, the walls, the light, only one light. I can justify the light, and also the skill that we know each other. Manu Dacos, we are very close now. We can be very economical on the pellicule, on the so we are good. Well, we are good on our job. I mean, we try, we work fast and sharply. We are quite sharp, and also everything is designed. Of course, we have some. We can adapt. We can adapt to the actors, but I don't know. I would be lost working in digital. I have to say. I don't want to work in digital. I don't want to work in digital. I want to work in films. I'm a filmmaker. I'm not a digital maker.
But that's the thing, is like, I'm thinking of like the interactions between the two characters in the hallway. Even there's a scene where you get a sense that there's a wedge between the couple, and even that is like, it's not an easy scene to shoot, not because there's nudity, but because you can have as many constraints as you want, but if you let him loose, you let this actor loose, that's when he delivers.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that there might have been like just technical constraints here. So you pretty much answered the question there. Where are your concerns now in terms of ideas, or visual ideas, or themes, or characters that you want to explore?
Well, it's always the same thing. Just the idea, it's, you need to grow up a little bit like as a filmmaker. So the idea here is to build, once again, my next project will be very touchy, because it's based on inspired by the Dutroux case, in Belgium. So it's very touchy matters.
Legally?
Yeah, legally and emotionally, because Belgian people was very impacted by that story in the mid 90s in Belgium and Europe.
Yeah.
But I try to I find the right angle to go through that story. But it's always the same thing. In fact, I'm looking the same concern. But it's the spectrum is a little bit wider, and also I want to make a movie with much more character, with a team of actors that I love, and go deeper and deeper and deeper in something that I'm digging.
Yeah, it sounds
But
like it's a community, not community thing, but a larger psychology to this. Um, yeah. Anyway,
well, you know, well,
there's
it's
a
always,
responsibility to facts, right?
yeah,
And this story belongs to a lot of people, so it's a lot more touchier, and so therefore there's perhaps more constraints.
yeah, but you know, one thing, it's for me, you know my love about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood uh, allow me to think about that differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was so impressed by the liberty of the film, what it did, what Tarantino did with this story, and what he proposed. It was something just like an epiphany for me. I said, "What? Wow! Okay, everything is possible." At the moment, you have some cinema, and if you make if you choose the cinema, you can talk about everything.
Yeah.
So that's why, you know, I saw I was obsessed at one point with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You know, I have to say I was completely obsessed with that film. I think it's a masterpiece for me. And I that film one moment give me the key, you know, of what I try to do on my next project, because you know that story, you know, it's a very touchy story, but
Of course.
nobody wants to touch it, especially in my country. Nobody wants to touch it, and I think it's been 25 years, and I think it's very important at one point that with the expression of the cinema that we can go revisit the story, or
Yeah.
you can give some perspective, and you can
I mean,
add more.
your responsibility here, and I get what you're saying about Quentin, is the responsibility is to be authentic in your treatment to
Yes,
the characters and to make these people palpable and real people. And artistic liberties are one thing, but I think what you're probably going to want to do is be true to those people in your interpretation of what those people were.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.